We unpack them and we really try to find the insights that stick with you. Today, we're setting out on a pretty extraordinary journey, I think. It's one that kind of asks us to think about how we measure life. Not just in years, but in memories, lessons, and the meaning we actually find. Our source material for this one is Echoes of Ethiopia, A Journey of Healing and Identity by Nebiu Daniel Balena. And look, this isn't just a memoir looking back. It feels much more like a mission. The author exploring really bravely where he comes from, the invisible stuff we all carry, and the path forward, especially around healing from trauma.
Yeah, what's really striking about Nabiu's work is that he's so clear about his intention. It's more than just telling his story. He's really reaching out, trying to, raise awareness and offer some kind of guidance for anyone else wrestling with trauma. And often that means pushing against cultural norms, the ones that suggest maybe silence is better. He really challenges that idea that trauma is something you just move past. He gets that many people carry these things, often quietly for years. It just sets this really personal, very impactful tone for our discussion today.
Absolutely. So our mission here is to unpack all of that, this journey of identity, of healing. We'll look at how culture, community, personal experience, how they all weave together to make us who we are, and ultimately how we navigate towards, well, freedom and wholeness. Okay, ready to jump in? Let's unpack this. So we start where Nebiu starts, right? The roots of childhood. Can you just picture it? Waking up with that amazing smell of coffee beans roasting, fresh in a jabina that's the traditional Ethiopian clay pot, right?
Essential.
And hearing neighbors greeting each other, salam, just the rhythm of it. He paints this picture of warmth, real community, but also discipline. Friends feeling like brothers, family meaning way more than just who live in your house.
And if you connect that to, the bigger picture of human development, what he's describing is that deep immersion in a collective identity. These aren't just quaint little customs. They're the actual building blocks of who you become.
Grandparents' stories, right.
Right.
Folk tales told under the stars, the sound of church bells or the call to prayer. That wasn't just background noise. It was like this constant reinforcement shaping your sense of self, community, your place in the world. It builds this deep respect for where you come from. But, and this is where it gets really interesting, maybe a bit more complex, because Nebiu is clear. Childhood wasn't only joy and belonging. He talks very openly about the struggles, too, that constant weight of expectations from elders, that fear, of letting down parents who'd sacrificed so much. And this quietness, a silence around things that hurt, things that were uncomfortable. In his experience of Ethiopian culture, sometimes respect meant you just swallowed your pain.
Yeah.
You kept it inside.
Yeah, and that immediately brings up a really important point, doesn't it, about the tension that can exist even in cultures that are incredibly rich in community. How can a society foster deep connections, foster respect, but at the same time, maybe unintentionally, create these spaces where personal pain gets pushed down, suppressed, often in the name of those same values like respect or harmony? And that's not just Ethiopia. I mean, it's a tension lots of people can relate to, sadly, where you're told, be strong, don't complain. And it ends up isolating you right when you need connection most. It shows how culture gives us a framework, but can also kind of complicate healing if it doesn't encourage vulnerability.
So then, moving into the teenage crossroads, adolescence hits, and it brings this even more intense period of questioning, of figuring things out.
Yeah.
School competition, he says, was just incredibly fierce. Doing well wasn't just for you, for your future. It was seen as a victory for the whole family, like a communal achievement. Imagine that pressure, carrying your parents' dreams, the family's hopes, while you're just trying to figure out who you are and what you want.
It really highlights that societal pressure point for young people, doesn't it? And friendships at that age, he describes them as this sort of fascinating duality. On one hand, they're a refuge, right? You share secrets, find support. But on the other hand, it's a battlefield. Peer pressure, comparing yourself to others. And that first taste of independence, wanting to break free, often clashes really hard with the traditional values you learned at home. It's that classic push and pull.
Absolutely. And woven through all that are what Nebiu calls the unspoken rules of culture. These invisible lines, how to act in public, how to uphold the family honor, fitting into that mold, good son, good daughter.
Yeah.
But even with all that pressure to conform, he talks about this quiet rebellion stirring inside. It wasn't like loud defiance, more like this deep inner wanting, a desire to define his own life on his own terms, even when that felt like it went against everything he'd been taught.
And what's so fascinating, and I think really relatable for so many people, is how universal that tension is. Young people everywhere grapple with it, that tricky balancing act, honoring your family, your heritage, but also listening to that emerging sense of self that might be pulling you somewhere else. It just shows how those seeds of identity and potentially deep internal conflict get sown really early on. It's like navigating the script you were given versus trying to write your own, often without the words to even explain it.
Okay, so adulthood arrives, and Nebiu finds, there's new freedom, but it comes with this significant, sometimes really daunting weight of responsibility. He talks about facing the tough stuff, work, relationships, just the daily grind of survival. And Ethiopian culture, while it gives you that strong base of community and resilience, it also brings these heavy expectations. Pressure to marry on time, provide for family, respect traditions without question, achieve success that makes the family look good.
And if we step back and look at that, it just starkly shows how culture doesn't just influence life, it actively shapes almost every part of it. That ingrained respect for elders, the importance of faith, community support, those are huge positives. But significantly, he also points out how failure was often met with shame instead of compassion. And that's a critical insight, right? That reveals this cultural